Hey guys, somebody's gone here. This video is the ultimate guide to early game. In this video, we're going to talk about everything you need to know to become the next best early game player. That being said, we're going to cover some overall themes that you should be looking for, and then we're going to dive into 3 separate players and show examples of how they're doing some of the things we talked about, and a couple unique pieces to their gameplay that make them good early game players. Now, this is going to be involving solo, so if you're trying to improve as a duo squad, you can definitely take key pieces of this into your gameplay from a team aspect, but this video is going to focus on improving and becoming the best early game player. The people we're going to watch are Fray FN, Marzo W, and AV. So let's hop right in, talk about the overall themes, and I'll show you guys some gameplay. So here's the notes that I took and the overall themes and aspects that you want to look for when you're trying to become a great early game player. So it's broken down into sections as you can see, and let's talk about them one by one. I'll link this full notes as well as VOD review notes from early game in the description with links to Twitch clips as well, so you can find those below. But let's hop right into this. First, let's talk about your drop spot. This is going to be the most important, hence why I put it first. So you want to find an area with multiple loot in close proximity to you. So that's going to be multiple chests, floor spawns, as well as that includes the materials. So you want an area where you can grab mats and materials quickly. Not only do you want to be able to grab mats and materials quickly, you want to be able to optimize your farming. So you want to hit the things along your path that are going to give you the highest material per smack. Various examples of this, like at Risky, you can either hit chairs or tables in the building. The chairs are going to give you 5 to 7 materials, where the tables are really only going to give you 2. So it's much more worth your while to hit the chairs instead of the tables. Same goes for the cars over the RVs. You get more material per hit when farming a car as opposed to an RV. Next, you have to be comfortable with 2 or more paths at your drop spot. This is important because you're going to have to be flexible. You have to be able to take a different path, land at a slightly different location than you would prefer, because you don't want to take a 50-50 off your drop. Second, well, be comfortable landing near your drop spot. That means, you might get scuffed and you might have 12 people landing at a single house if that's your drop spot. Be comfortable going elsewhere. You don't have to take the same exact drop spot and loot path every time. You can optimize other paths and learn. The more time you have, the more you should be investing into your early game. And then protect yourself while looting. We'll see examples of Fray doing this. He knows when there's specific points on his path where he's most likely to get shot at. So he'll go ahead and build to protect himself. That way you don't take unnecessary tags. And lastly, know it like the back of your hand, guys. You don't want to be caught with your pants down when every building is taken except one and you're forced to land at that building. Know where you want to land, but also know what you have to do if you don't get the spot that you want to land at. Second, when you're landing or gliding, it is very, very, very important to have vision and see everyone around you. I don't just mean if you're landing at a POI, see who's landing at the POI. Let's take Lazy Lake, for example. If you're landing at Lazy Lake, you better damn know if someone's landing right outside on, what would that be, the east side with all that brick by the river, or if someone's landing over to the west side at the modern house by that little lake area. Because once you start moving out of those locations, those are the people that are going to third party you. So understand where everyone's going around you, because not only will it help you in the immediate area, it will help you in the surrounding areas when, or if you win your drop spot, you'll know that there's other players in the area, and to be aware, be careful. It'll also help you kind of calculate a rotation when you start rotating towards zone, because you know these players are going to be doing the same from X and Y location. Now, you also don't want a 50-50. It's literally throwing games to just drop on someone and 50-50 them. Yes, it'll probably happen to you, and you can't avoid it because someone else decides to start pickaxing you after you've already landed. It is what it is. I would suggest you don't do that, and you really try to avoid doing that. And finally, there's going to be different kinds of drops you can take. You could take a quick drop, as I call it. It's going to be the lowest possible drop in the optimized path to where you want to land. You could take a slow drop. Unknown likes to do this. He likes to take a slower drop, see what's going on around Slurpee, and pick and choose accordingly so he can react and play counter to the other players landing at your location. You can do this as well. And finally, there's going to be the high ground drop. So it's not necessarily a single point, and I can't say a single place that is going to be the high ground drop, but you can see where players are landing around you and pick a point that's going to give you the high ground advantage after simply looting a chest or a couple chests. So that way you could quickly get back on top, get that vision, and take advantage of that. Now, finally, and this is probably what most of you are looking for, is fighting and disengaging. Learn to choose your fights and don't let your opponent force you into a fight. So by choosing your fights, what you really want to do is choose fights that are advantageous to you. And there's several different areas, and we'll see examples when we go into the actual gameplay. But the first is being able to sneak a player. If you can get damage on a player and that information, oh, they're white, I hit them for 50 blue, before you take a fight, that's huge. And then it is much more likely that you'll win a fight knowing more information about the player than they know about you. Second is if you have high ground. If you're sitting up above a building and players are 2 or 3 stories below you, I mean, yes, you can likely get tags on them. They're going to have to push up above or disengage. So you're at the advantageous position. Go ahead, take that fight. And then if you have right-hand peaks, so say you're fighting in a building and you know that within the building, you're going to have right-hand peaks within certain spots, and they're going to have to take a left-handed peek if they want to fight you, go for it. By all means, those are advantageous positions. So take fights where you think you can win, where you are in the better position than your opponent. If you don't have information about your opponent, I would suggest don't take a fight. It's different in like the first or second game of a cash cup because you might be trying to pop off, but coming into the 3rd to 10th game, I'd be much more hesitant as you're going to be going against better players. Then you need to learn how to disengage fights. So if a fight's taking too long, you're going to attract more people and you're very likely to get third partied. So as I put in this document, you want to be risk adverse. There should be a mental timer that goes on while fighting. And once, let's say, 45 seconds hits in a fight, you should start to tell yourself, okay, maybe even 30 seconds. Okay, if I don't end this fight soon, I need to back off regardless of what the situation is. And you should be telling yourself this if someone tags you for 50 and they're below you and you're in the advantageous position, but you're down and you have the health disadvantage, then go ahead, get away from the fight as well. They're much less likely if you disengage quickly and you are smart about it. You're much more likely to be able to get away and move on from a fight. And I put this in here. A fight in a congested POI is essentially a 50-50. What do I mean by that? If you know there's like 6 to 8 people in a POI and you're fighting out in the open, not in a building, you're going to get third partied, and your chances of surviving that fight are as good as your opponent's and anyone else at that POI. It's really as simple as someone getting 3 grenades, seeing you guys fighting out in the open, and perfect nading you. It's like I said before, you have to be risk adverse. Fight people in buildings. Use natural cover to create arenas to fight people in. You don't want to be fighting people out in the open at congested areas. And finally, be confident in your abilities. You have to be able to think you're going to win fights. If you go into every fight like, oh shit, like this guy's going to kill me, got to box up, like I can't peek, oh no, he stole my wall, run away, run away. No, you have to be able to be the aggressor in fights and push fights towards a close. If you're always passive and not trying to fight people, the aggressor's typically going to be on the advantageous position and have the upper hand. So be comfortable being the aggressor while in engagements and dictate the fights. So we'll go into that a little later. And finally, before we get into some gameplay, I really just want to say, don't let yourself get tilted. Like I say here, the last game is over. It is over. If you let that game affect the next game, then that's your fault. That's no one else's. You're making excuses. You're throwing the next game. Calm yourself down. If you have to step back and walk outside for 5 minutes, something I've actually seen Marzo W do is, step away from the computer and play even a West game or take a break. Just do whatever you need to do. It's going to be different for everyone. I can't tell you how to calm down, but do what you need to do to calm down, get yourself in the right mindset, and ready to go for the next game. So the first player we're going to be watching is Fray. He lands up in the Northwest Islands, and this is going to be from the DreamHack semifinals, so pretty stacked games. And let's go ahead, hop in, and see what he's got going on. So this is game 1 from an EU Cash Cup from Fray FN. I know I originally said the DreamHack Finals, but they got deleted the day after I recorded the intro, so we're watching another Cash Cup. You may think, oh, this is just a drop, what's going on? And he normally lands on his marker. You see that right there? But he identifies that 2 people are landing in that location, and someone has a better drop. So he's like, nah, screw that. I'm not taking a 50-50, and goes and lands somewhere else where he knows he's going to be at a better position. This is an example of knowing your drop spot and being comfortable landing elsewhere, as well as avoiding 50-50s. Here's another example of Fray knowing when and when not to take a fight. He winds up getting white tags on this player, but would have to cross the water, which puts him at a huge disadvantage and gives the other player a clear shot at him when he's swimming. So he sees what's going on, obviously thinks about taking this fight, but ultimately disengages because it's not worth it. They're on the edge of zone. They got to get moving. He needs to farm materials. So this is a good example of not taking a fight. And it's impressive because not everyone knows when and when not to take fights. In game 2, this sequence shows the intelligence and the ability of Fray. So at first, he goes and pretends to land up top to essentially move that player trying to contest him up top. Then he drops down below and plays a very smart game, as well as is constantly aware of the player above him. So one of the notes I've said while watching Fray is he knows when he's vulnerable and always protects himself. This is an example of that, and he sees the player throw nades, adjusts accordingly, and plays this slow. Now, it may look like he's waiting for the fight to come to him, but he has no range, so he's letting the player get closer and playing the fight that he wants to have. Now that the player's used up a good bit of mats, Fray's in the advantage as he has the purple tack. Look at how he knocks down this player, hits his shots, and ends the fight quickly. A lot of players could have panicked by being out of materials there, but Fray did the absolutely perfect moves by building that cone, letting the player come to him, and then moving on. as well as we see how quickly he farms materials. That was a good bit of mats he used, and his location gives him multiple chest spawns as well as floor spawns to quickly gather materials and loot. In this cup, Fray gets contested quite a bit, but one thing he always manages to do is be aware and understand where his opponent is so that way he can play accordingly. It's quite interesting, this game. Does get tagged up a little bit, and he loves to pretend he's landing top to screw with his opponent, and it does work out for him quite well. As I mean, you can imagine, you think someone's landing there, and at the last second they change their position. But we'll see a couple examples of what's going on here with Fray. He's tracking where his opponent is right now, grabbing loot quickly, but not pushing a fight that he doesn't need to. And as I stated before, he's always covering himself when he's building. Sometimes we can get lazy and decide, no, I'm just going to loot this chest. It'll probably be fine. He gets extra careful, which is something you need to do and could be the difference between you dying off spawn one game or making it through the early game. This is the first time Fray is uncontested during this cash cup. What I want you guys to do is watch how quickly his material count goes up and how much loot he gets within a few seconds of landing. Not more than 30 seconds later is he going to be well above 300 materials, but also going to have multiple chests looted as well as an ammo box and a couple shields. So about 300 mats, and that's slightly less than 30 seconds into the game. That's what you want in a drop spot. Here is game 1 from AV. So one thing we're going to notice is this is his W key game. And I wanted to show you guys this because he plays this differently than the other games. He goes to Craggy where he normally goes to the disco. So he's looking around, he's seeing where everyone's landing around him, grabs the chest on a high point. So he's landing at the high point or the high ground zone. And he knows the player's in here. And then, admittedly, he says with better nades, he would have killed this guy. So, just wanted to show you this early game. We're going to go ahead and watch this out. He's super aggressive, and I want to show you guys how he takes these fights. But first, he's going to get his loot and take them at his own pace. And that's important because you want to control the pace as a player. You don't want to be playing at someone else's will. So just being able to control your pace, do your normal loot path, feel comfortable is very important. Let's watch this play out. I'll speed this up. All right, and here we go. Now, this is something that could be negligible, but he knows the player to the far right is no longer in that building. So he's going to go ahead, go from right to left, and clear this entire place. It's a very smart strategy to start on the end of one place and move to the opposite end. That way you don't really have to worry about someone coming in behind you and really limits the angles that you have to be aware of. It's game 1, so that's an easy fight. That guy was a bot. AV wins those quickly. But this guy's definitely a little better, and we see a little more skill come out of AV. His strategy in game 1 is clearly to push people, grab some points, and he has a nice high ground retake there. The other guy grabs the high ground, so could essentially turn into a 50-50 here, but he slows it down. He gets white tags and goes on the aggressive. Could have not paid off considering that guy had a blue pump, but again, it's game one, so you're normally going to play a little more aggressive to get some kills. And we have one more engagement at this location. We'll slow this up. This guy's kind of also a bot. He's hiding down here. AV finds him kind of quickly, and I believe he one pumps him. But it's very good awareness for him to hear this player down below, and always protecting himself. He's good with the cones to prevent himself from getting shot at from the high ground. Not the best peek there, but it gets the job done considering he just watched that player RPG himself. So let's move on to game two. All right, here's another game from AV, and this is going to be an interesting one as he aggroes the hell out of this game. As you can see, he's in a pretty high point lobby, but he doesn't care. He's going to push it anyway. So he gets 6 minis right off the bat, doesn't bother to get that chest, sees players going down to these locations below, and immediately starts looking for shots. So I normally wouldn't suggest this, but when you have this good of a position on your opponents, as well as a pretty good weapon, knowing that they've probably only looted 1 to 2 chests, you see the other player disengage, and now this is a one-on-one. You do 44 damage off the bat, and now this is a good fight to take. While it may not have been at first, it is now a huge advantage for AV. Not only does he have probably the weapon advantage, likely the shield advantage, he has more knowledge on the player than the player has on him. No mats, kind of a 50-50 here, but when you know the player's no more than 75 to 100 health, it's a big time win. And it's a free kill. You know, now you get more loot. You've scared these players off your position, and the rest of this part of the map is yours. This will be the last game we watch from AV. So he sees a player that's going to contest him. He doesn't have a weapon to fight him or even take shots right off the bat. So the engagement's going to happen within this building. And this is what I talk about when knowing your drop spot. This is not a play that many players might know to do, but AV has clearly landed here many times to know that this is possible. Now, what am I talking about? You can replace that floor without even breaking it. That is knowledge about your drop spot. That is owning the drop spot and knowing everything about it. So just a little play there, and something he'll do next is once again go grab tags on a player down below at the cabin, but doesn't push down. And I don't think you guys need to see that again. I think you understand the point. He'll stay up on the high ground, own high ground, grab tags, and not go into a disadvantage or poor macro location by putting himself down below. So up next is going to be Marzo W. We'll watch a few games of him, and then we'll recap everything. All right. So Mars is probably the most aggressive player when it comes to a POI, but at the same time, he's also going to be very quick to disengage a fight or leave the POI if he doesn't like what he sees. So in this game, we'll see he grabs what he needs and then gets out. And that's a common theme that I saw from him. Not getting greedy, taking too much, taking too long. He gets the loot that he needs, gets the shield that he needs, and doesn't feel that he has to stay and fight a drop spot. He's very comfortable leaving locations and just farming, grabbing the loot on the outer edges of POIs. You see this multiple times. So let's watch this play out, and you guys will see what I mean. Another thing is this is the first game, and Mars clearly has a consistent path that he chooses, knows exactly what he's doing, And I can't repeat it enough. It's so important to practice this. You don't want to be landing a spot for the first time in a tournament. And now Mars is about to get into a disengagement. Believe the person is going to be in the roof here. So let's watch how he handles this. And then also disengages from this fight. So right now he's on the high ground. He's in the advantageous position, full shield, but he takes a 50 tag and uses his big pot. The other player's not too aggressive. They clearly don't want to take this fight. And Mars is just like, you know what? This ain't worth it. 1 kill, 1 point is not worth it. I can get more points out of placement. If I disengage this fight, let me get out of here. And he does so in a very protected manner. So it's not just simply leaving, but he's also protecting himself. So he's not taking extra tags as he walks away. But that's it. He has his AR, his shotgun, and some heals. And typically that's all Mars needs. Once he gets that, he's typically going to back out and go and farm mats and get himself in a good location on the map. All right, here's game 2 from Marzo W. And he identifies that a player is going to have a better drop on the main building, which is his main drop location, acts accordingly, sees that he can cut off this whole right side or east side of the map here by landing on this building. And one thing that I'm going to repeat is he grabs what he needs and gets out. He's not a player that's going to wait too long or overcommit to a fight, a POI. None of that's important. He plays for endgame, plays for those placement points, and you're not going to do those taking early game fights. We'll watch this play out, but typically all he needs, AR, shotgun, and I believe he gets a harpoon and starts fishing. He'll get shot at a little bit, but nothing crazy, nothing he can't handle. Again, always looking. He knows there's someone in the main building, knows there's going to be someone on the far side of the map or the POI. No, sorry, not the map. But just grabbing his loot, gets full shield, and he's content with that. So that's it. It's literally as simple as this is. Some of you may be like, hey, why the heck are we watching this? Because some of you need to see this. That one of the best Cash Cup players doesn't try and hold a whole POI and will disengage and not take stupid fights. He gets shot out here, could easily get tilted, try and fight this guy, but nope, just going to walk away. The other player can't catch up to you if you continuously move. So one thing that I've noticed Mars does well is moves around a lot. But that's all I got for you. He's just going to continue moving away and does not get pushed, but protects his back as he moves. Another game with Marzo W, and this is going to be a totally scuffed game. So we are looking at this because I just want to show you that as long as you're patient and don't take stupid 50-50s, know how to rotate away from players, you can do well. So Craggy was too crowded. The bridge was too crowded. There was 2 players landing there. So Marge just says, you know what? Screw it. Let me get out of here. I'll grab this one chest over here and move on. And then he just makes the best out of it. I mean, I could fast forward here a little bit. It's nothing crazy. Just loots up, gets some mats, gets an AR, shoddy, heals, and rotates. I mean, I don't think you guys need to see someone looting, but that's knowing the location around your drop spot. That's being comfortable playing scuffed, and that's being confident in your ability to play regardless of what's going on and what the circumstances are. In this game, Mars switches it up a little bit. He sees a llama, gets a little greedy, and decides to go for the llama. Once he sees that no one's going for it, he grabs the one chest spawn nearby and is able to successfully grab the llama. But once again, he's playing kind of scuffed. All he has is a sniper and could potentially be pushed. But instead of panic, he grabs the llama, remains calm, identifies where he can get some extra loot, and moves on and winds up getting 2 kills here. So one other reason why I like this game is he's able to sneak 2 players, which is a huge strategy that you should be using when playing early game. You can use this at any point in the game, but typically in early game, players are going to be looting and much more likely to be unaware of what's going on around them. So it's a little easier to sneak players early on in the game than it's going to be later. So we'll watch that here. I believe he gets an AR, and even the player knows that he's at this orchard area, but still can't do anything about him sneaking up and getting tags on them. We see that player in a box, likely going to be taking shield here. So Mars uses it to push up. This player's unaware. He's still farming. That's 90 damage or slightly less on him. And now this is a huge advantage for Mars. He knows he has at least a 90 health advantage, so this is a good fight to take. There's 50 white. Now you have a huge health advantage, and it's just up to ending this fight now, which he does pretty solidly without letting the third party steal his kill or kill him as well. Now there's a little piece there that we see him do it well, is not go into the box or push too hard into the box. That way he doesn't get killed by a trap accidentally. Sometimes players are too aggressive and push into a box they shouldn't. But let's watch the rest of this out. And so the other player that just shot at them, they know there was just an engagement here. Lucky for Mars, he doesn't decide to push the engagement, but either way, Mars should not be able to sneak up on this guy. The other guy knows that there's people here and should be way more aware. So again, 90 plus damage before the fight even starts. Mars puts continuous pressure so the player can't heal and hops right into the box, which is the opposite of what I just talked about of avoiding traps, but ends the fight quickly. And from here, he's in a great position. 6 minis, AR, Shoddy, SMG, Harpoon, full mats. So, all right, guys, just a quick recap. I won't keep you as long as the first time I went over these notes. But some big things that I do want to make sure you're aware of is 1, knowledge. Know your landing spot. Know how to handle it. Do what you need to do. Don't land somewhere the first time during a cash cup or during a tournament. That is not smart. Be comfortable, practice, know what you're doing, know how you need to glide, know where you're landing, know the best points at a POI, know where you don't want to be at a POI. Just in general. Then, get better at taking fights. And then also practice disengaging fights. Because a lot of people just kind of like play games out and, I'm in a fight. This is it. I got to take this fight. It's a little harder to practice in regular arena games or even pubs. Scrims might be a little easier to practice disengaging fights because you'll have some more intelligent players trying to play for placement as well as play for endgame for practice. So those might be the places you want to practice. But that's all I got for you guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. A lot of work went into putting all this together. Again, check the description below for this full document. My Fray FN review got a little scuffed because I reviewed it on, I want to say Thursday, and then this is now Monday. of the following week trying to record those videos, and Twitch took it down. So a little different than what I wanted to do, and the notes aren't accurate, but I got everything you need. I'm your guy. This is the ultimate guide for early game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe up there, comment below, as well as hit the like button. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Somebody's Gun, and I am out.